doing so, he is frustrating his head coach. And that is something that I don't like. It ain't about us. It's about the team. And if Kyle Shanahan sounds like he's frustrated with Brandon Aiyuk, then that is something that I have to pay attention to.
Well, first of all, when you say he's won, we got to see the numbers on the contract.
I believe he will, when it comes out, win. I could be wrong.
No, you could be right, but I think that, to be honest with you, these contracts are beyond my bandwidth. Like, they'll come out with a number, but that APY, as you and I have discussed, means nothing. It's all about cap hits. It's about deferred money. It's about the guaranteed money and how it stacks up against Tyreek Hill or Justin Jefferson. Only the agents, Prog Marate, and people that really get into the weeds with this sort of stuff are going to know who won or who lost in terms of his asking price. The numbers that we see, we can banter about. A lot of it is just for vanity, I think. The APY, $30 million a year. I'm in the top 5, or I'm making as much as Amon-Ra St. Brown or whomever. But really, when it gets down to the nitty-gritty in terms of who won or lost, as far as dollars and cents, I think you need like a degree in this sort of thing to understand just how much money one side gave up and the other made. But, I mean, when you think about it, after all the craziness, we're right back where we started. Two teams are sitting at a table, hammering out a deal. This could have happened back in March or in April. So despite all the trade and trade rumors, we're really right back to square one.
Especially because, you're right, it's also, this has been a 6-month thing. 2 days after the Super Bowl, Aiyuk's girlfriend posted on social media that this might be the last time that they're going to Levi's Stadium. I cannot imagine that the Niners did not foresee a contract negotiation that needed to happen with that. This has taken 6 months. And I also think it's taken 6 months for someone like Kyle Shanahan to get to the point where he finally is becoming a bit frustrated with Brandon Aiyuk. And it's not that he hasn't signed, and it's not that he's, not going to be a part of the team, but it's that because, and I've been reluctant to use this word because I have been very pro Brandon Aiyuk over this summer, doing whatever he needs to do to get his money. I'm at the point, Dan, where I do believe he will get the money that he wants. And the final year is the only thing that needs to be ironed out. The last bit of guaranteed money, whatever that is. I think Brandon Aiyuk is going to win. So at the point where you've won, using all these leverage tactics, it becomes a moot point. What you are right now, what Brandon Aiyuk has become, is a distraction. And a distraction is not something, in my opinion, that this 49ers team that is top dog in the NFC, that wants to be back where they were last year with his, an arm's reach away from a Super Bowl, a distraction is what you cannot afford to have. And I do think Brandon Aiyuk is dangerously close to approaching that territory.
So just getting back to the contract, and again, I defer to the people, the nerds that do this for a living, well beyond what it is of my understanding in all of this sort of stuff. The last year of the contract, because I used Tyreek Hill as an example, they often refer to that as funny money. They very rarely, if ever, guarantee that last year. But Tyreek Hill, he negotiated $43 million for the last year of his deal with the Miami Dolphins, which most likely they'll never pay. But the reason he factored in that $43 million is that when you averaged out the total sum, it came out to the 30 per. So again, it's for vanity reasons that that last year is put in there so that the average salary over the span of the contract puts you at a number that is competitive, say, with the top wide receivers in football. It's not only done for your vanity's sake, but also agents, right? Like agents want to say, I got my guy signed for X amount of dollars. Like the APY, whether it's accurate or not, means a lot to the player in terms of their ego, and it means a lot to the agent. So the agent can walk around and saying, when trying to recruit new talent, why don't you come to our stable? Look what it is that I got Brandon Aiyuk. How much did he make? $30 million. He's right up there with the top wide receivers in all of football. So on those levels, when you talk about the back end of the last year, the contract, as far as I understand it, that money isn't guaranteed. Oftentimes that funny money is thrown in there to sort of boost the APY. Just to get back to Brandon Aiyuk, and I think that this is where this all started with in defending the 49ers. To your point, when it came to Nick Bosa, I think that's one of the few times, because I think the 49ers are very shrewd when they put on their business hats. But they blinked against Bosa. Bosa won that deal. Bosa got over on the 49ers. That doesn't happen. It went way too long. I mean, it encroached into the regular season. So on the heels of that, and the fact that you've got Brock Purdy, as we all know, is looming, that's where we're at with Brandon Aiyuk. I think it's not personal with Brandon Aiyuk, because a lot of people have said, well, listen, you paid the others. Why aren't you paying me? It's just circumstantial, Ev. It's like you just so happen to be. Yes, we have taken care of our players, going back to Fred Warner and George Kittle and Deebo Samuel and Nick Bosa. It just happens to be circumstantial that you got wedged in between after us losing to Nick Bosa and what it is that we're going to have to pay Brock Purdy.
Yeah, I mean, the Purdy contract looms over everything. I also want to bring Carter into this discussion because you've been at training camp pretty much every day this week. You've seen the sort of progression of the publicity that Aiyuk has been putting forth, right? I mean, you said that one day he wasn't in Niners gear, the next day he was. How have you seen what Brandon Aiyuk's publicly done this week?
It's been really interesting. He, for kind of most of the week, he just stands there on the sideline and watches drills, and he keeps a very unreadable face on. And on top of that, he wears generic NFL clothing, which is really interesting. But Friday, that kind of really changed.
Why is that?
In the fact that he was wearing red. I don't know if it was 49er logoed red.
That was Thursday.
And he was running agility drills in the corner with Ricky Pearsall, which we have not seen him do. At least he has not shown the media really on the field him doing anything active. So it was kind of, pretty surprising at least.
Yeah, so it feels like he's doing that on purpose. And it could be a demonstration of how close they are to a contract. Like the fact that I am going to be out there working means that we're 98% of the way there. But I don't know about you, Dan. And it might just be me, but dude, if you're on the practice field, you got to practice. If you're hurt, you're hurt. You stay on the sideline and you do your rehab and you work in the background. If you're on the practice field, I need you to practice. Mm-hmm. If you're going to be around the team and you're joshing with wide receivers, it's like the kid in class who everyone knows is super smart, can just run up and get an A on the specific test, but is in class just distracting all the rest of the kids that are there to try and work because they actually do need to put the work in. Brandon Aiyuk, I believe he's in shape. I believe the moment that week one starts, that if he's on the field, he's going to be playing at an all-pro level like he did last year. And Brock Purdy's going to get him the ball, and he's got a great chance to rack up numbers and help the Niners win games. I believe all of that. Okay, so everyone else also needs to quit being the guy that is basically distracting your teammates. I think that Brandon Aiyuk is approaching distraction territory because he is not making the decision, or is intentionally making the choice to be out there on the field when either he shouldn't be because he's reportedly hurt or because, I'm not really going to go 100%.
And that's why this thing has to end, because that's not sustainable. And again, if this is going to have a cancerous effect on the rest of that locker room and team, it has to come to an end today. I harken back and make the basketball analogies. Remember Anthony Davis in his final years in New Orleans when it was a foregone conclusion he wanted out, and he would do the same thing, wasn't playing with the Pelicans because he wanted to go to L.A., wanted to play with LeBron, and he'd feign these silly injuries. James Harden sitting on a bench, and the team, it's not as though you can't see that the 7'1" best player on our team is not playing, yet he's in uniform. It disrupted everything to the point where Anthony Davis got his wish because ownership and management and coaches are like, he's got to go. This has to stop. I can't coach the rest of the team because of this one player. Now, we're not at that level with Brandon Aiyuk, but there's precedence here. Carter, a couple of things I wanted to ask you. So I'm hearing a lot about Brock Purdy is apparently yoked and ripped. Can you see any physical differences with him? And as well as Brandon Aiyuk.
I will say this: I haven't really seen that big of a physical difference. I think that's a little blown over. If you want my opinion, they ran an amazing trick play.
Oh yes, with Debo,
in which it was a double reverse. Basically, Debo got the ball and he threw it to Purdy on a go route, and Brock caught it. He even made a move on the defender, got past him, and he blew it.
It's Diamador Lenore he beat, I believe.
50 yards.
Yeah.
Didn't they have a name for the play, too? I think it was called
Dog?
Per Dog. Yeah, he said that at the podium. I thought that was pretty cool.
So let me just ask you this. When we had a trick play at St. Ignatius.
When you're running the wing tee?
In leather helmets. When we had a trick play, simply because we would play Reardon, Sacred Heart City Schools.
Stuart Hall?
We're relatively close. No.
Okay.
Is Stuart Hall a football team?
We do, actually, yes.
Oh, okay. But when we had a trick play, we would go into the gymnasium because Reardon would have their spies, would have people walking around at their parents. Well, you'd have people, it's a city thing. Like, oh, SI, you should have seen what they did. It's like, everybody sort of hangs out somewhere. Like whether it's the Circle or the Boathouse is where we used to drink back in the day.
Oh, we got the Patriots Spygate going on in San Francisco?
Well, if you're the 49ers and you're at this early in the season and it's practice, why the hell is Brock Purdy talking about it? Like, why is this of public consumption? Like, I shouldn't have known about this. Like, I'm telling you, if it's a trick play, like, there shouldn't be any video on it. We shouldn't be discussing it. Some things can be clandestine. Like, some things can be under wraps. Get into that gymnasium like us and St. Ignatius and then, pull it out for that fake two-pointer as we pulled against the Crusaders of Reardon in that particular football game.
Well, I feel like every team's got the Philly special, right? That certain package, I don't know, the Per Dog package, whatever it is. But no one knows when you're going to use it. It's not like they're sitting there on a 4th down, a 4th and 1, and they're like, all right, guys, watch out for Per Dog. No, they're watch out for halfback dive, McCaffrey up the middle, right behind or to the left side behind Trent Williams, assuming he's on the field week 1. No, I mean, I didn't mind it. I thought it was actually really cool.
Did you see it?
Well, Carter just described it to us.
Yeah, no, I'm wondering if there's video of it.
Probably someone's got it out there on their phone somewhere. But the fact that they did it publicly, I also think it's like, yeah, you got to try it. You got to try those things. I don't know if you're going to do it, I don't know, behind closed doors, but
I'm not a big fan of trick plays. I'll just tell you that. I like a team line up, hit them in the face, beat them, going A-gap down the field, let the other team take their soul, be a better team than them, throw a pass, complete it, run it over, and get to the second level. Trickery is just like...
You got to have that stuff in the play. But, I mean, in the Super Bowl, Juwan Jennings threw a touchdown to Christian McCaffrey.
I wouldn't call that... Is that necessarily trickery? I guess halfback options or, yeah.
I mean, it was a lateral, and Jennings barely got that ball off.
Do you remember the fumble Rooski? Like that wasn't even football.
I mean, in the longest yard that works. But
I mean, that wasn't even. We weren't even playing football anymore.
Georgia Tech versus Shadron State. Yeah, I could see it. By the way, week 0 is coming up in college football. But let's get out to the phone lines. 888-957-9570 is the number. Is Aiyuk approaching the distraction territory for you? How the Niners handled this? I mean, to me, I think this thing is coming to a head. It's going to come to a close very soon. I'm not worried about the money. What I am worried about is hearing Kyle Shanahan, I don't know, is seemingly frustrated with the amount of questions that he's got to answer, whether or not Aiyuk is all in, halfway out. What are you hearing about it? Also, there's a couple of other teams that I want to look at in a moment that have also dealt with some hold-ins or holdouts in specific ways. The Niners could have played it. I'm not sure. But let's go down to San Jose, talk to one of our favorites. Austin, you're on with Evan and Dan. What's up, my man?
Hey, happy Saturday, guys. Listen, I kind of think I'm a non-Niner fan, so I can be a little bit objective. I think that Aiyuk has misplayed it. I think he showed some immaturity and even showing up. I agree he shouldn't be there probably. I think he's getting some bad advice. I think he should change agents after this go around. But the other part of it, though, the balance of it is I'm not sure that I agree that the 49ers have handled this very well. I don't understand why they haven't already traded him, to be honest with you. I mean, he's not the first time a great player and I wouldn't even call him a great receiver at this point. I call him a good receiver.
Yeah.
But the guys better than him have been traded, so I don't know why everybody thinks that Aiyuk can't be traded. He certainly can be traded. Maybe should have been by now. They probably could have got value for him, and then they wouldn't have distraction. If they're such a great franchise that everybody keeps saying they are, and Kyle's this genius that can make anybody work, then why are they worried about Aiyuk? Get somebody else. I mean, I don't. So to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense, and I think they're setting a bad precedent. I think one of the reasons why they don't want to pay him what he wants is because if they pay him what he wants, guys, every time somebody else gets paid more, he's going to come in for a reset. He's already kind of said he's going to be that kind of player. So I don't know why everybody would think he's going to change. He's going to want to increase every other year. Then the other thing about Purdy, I don't understand why everybody doesn't seem to have a problem with Purdy getting paid. In fact, Purdy's, according to you guys, is already going to get $60 million next year. I want to ask Evan right now, and I'm going to challenge you.
Oh boy.
First of all, I don't believe he's going to get anywhere near $60 million. And I think he's going to come in somewhere around 30 to 35 max. No one else, and the reason why they don't have to pay him, no one else in the NFL is going to pay him that kind of money. They'll compete with himself. So why would they pay Brock Purdy $60 million? Give me 2 or 3 teams that'll give Brock Purdy that kind of money. I'm waiting, guys. I'll listen. Thanks.
No, Austin, hold on. I guess he dropped. But I was going to ask Austin if he thought that Dak Prescott was a $60 million quarterback, because he's going to be, I think he is going to be a free agent next year. I mean, we talked about Jerry Jones not knowing what the hell he's doing in Dallas. And I think a result of that is Dak Prescott either re-signing with the Dallas Cowboys or going elsewhere. And I think once he becomes a $60 million per year quarterback, I don't know what the guaranteed money is going to be, but to me that does make Brock Purdy a $60 million quarterback. So that would be my response, Austin. I appreciate you calling in. Always enjoyed the conversation. And he said something that I want to get to in a moment. But, I mean, do you think Dak Prescott is a $60 million quarterback, Dan? In this market?
In this market, yeah. Because that's the going rate.
Then in my mind, that makes Brock Purdy a $60 million quarterback.
He is. But I think to Austin's point, it sort of gets back to, look at it. If Patrick Mahomes is up, then he's getting market value and more so. Same holds true for Amon-Ra St. Brown, or, we'll keep it to quarterbacks, Jared Goff. But this sort of has a tinge, if I'm to read Austin correctly, of there's still a strong belief that Brock Purdy can't do this anywhere else aside from San Francisco.
Yeah.
So he might be worth $60 million to San Francisco, but if he goes out on the free market and I need a quarterback, am I paying him upwards to $60 to $65 million?
What about Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the other part. And to answer Austin's question about what other teams would pay him, I'm not sure if there are 2 or 3, but I do know that, like, let's say Dak Prescott re-signs with Dallas, whether it's, I don't know, this offseason or next offseason. And, well, Brock Purdy wouldn't be a free agent after this season, but I believe after next year, let's say the Niners don't pay him. I do think that the New York Giants would overpay for Brock Purdy. I do think that a team like in a couple of years, like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, would overpay for Brock Purdy.
The Raiders?
The Las Vegas Raiders might overpay for Brock. They're probably going to try to make a run at Dak Prescott.
When you say overpay, you're saying $60 million.
Yeah. I agree with Austin. Okay. $60 million is a lot of money.
Hey, I've heard talk that number could be a 7 by the time next year rolls around if he plays well.
I mean, in all seriousness, if he puts together another top 5 MVP season, which I believe he was top 5 last year, I don't know how he isn't. And look, he might regress and the numbers might not look as good. I'm stacking his resume against other quarterbacks that have been paid in that stratosphere. And I don't think Trevor Lawrence is a $50 million. There are 8 quarterbacks right now that make $50+ million per year.
And Tua is one of them. I have a hard time.
I don't think Tua is worth 53 per year. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is worth 50+ per year. I don't think Jared Goff is worth 50+ per year. But again, all of these guys have made that money. Do I think that Brock Purdy is worth $60 million? No, I don't. But that doesn't mean that he can't get paid that.
It brings a larger sort of question to all of this. And I think I brought this up earlier. Do you think that we've gotten to the point where spending money on quarterbacks has gotten out of control?
I do think there will eventually be a market correction.
Yeah.
Yes. I think that's coming sooner to wide receivers, to be honest, because as we've seen, there are a lot of really good young wideouts, and they seemingly come out every single year.
Puka Nacua.
Well, Puka Nacua is a 4th or 5th round pick. I'm just talking about the guys at the top of the draft.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just talking about the guys at the top of the draft. There were 3 wide receivers taken in the top 15 this year. And one of them is probably going to be a game breaker, and Harrison's kid. Adunze is going to get a lot of looks in Chicago with Caleb Williams. I think Malik Neighbors doesn't have a great quarterback, but it doesn't mean he can't be good on the Giants. Like, there are wideouts that are...
Daniel Jones hate?
Come on, man. All right, for everybody who doesn't know, Devone does have a bit of a soft spot for Danny Dimes.
Stop!
And I think if the Giants could, for example, pay Brock Purdy this year $60 million instead of paying Daniel Jones $45 million or whatever money he's making, I think they would do it.
Are you watching Hard Knocks?
I watched the off-season one with the Giants. I haven't dialed up the Chicago Bears one yet.
Yeah, well, the New York Giants one, that's one of those where you're revealing a little too much, fellas. Like, I get it. It's a reality show, but let's pull back a little bit here. Put some guys under the bus.
I always wonder where your allegiance lies. Your allegiance.
In terms of football?
Shout out Allegiant Stadium. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sort of, I enjoy the 49ers.
King of the coast, juggle them both.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see San Francisco. You know what I pull for? I always tell you this. And Carter, you could attest to this as
Atlanta
well.
Falcons.
As you get closer to, as a sportscaster, as somebody that gets intimate with some of the players, you begin to pull for good people.
Whoop.
No, I'm serious. You know these guys, and you begin
Do you know
to
Daniel Jones personally?
No.
Oh, I'd believe it.
But I just think you begin to pull for coaches and teams and players that you like, that you just feel are good people, And you're just like, I want to see them win.
When you think about likable athletes in the NFL, who do you think? I think Brock Purdy's a likable athlete.
Yeah, I think George Kittle's at the top of that list. I think Debo has a really strong, likable quality, the big smile.
I do love Debo.
Yeah. Are we talking about 49ers or are we talking about across the board?
I think for the Niners, that would kind of round on my time. Like, Nick Bosa's not necessarily, he's a likable player.
Yeah.
But as a person,
he has no personality.
No, it doesn't really do it for me. Brandon Aiyuk is an interesting one. Trent Williams is an interesting one. I think the Niners are generally affable. I think they're an affable team.
I have a hard time, I think I told you this, pulling for the Jets because of Aaron Rodgers, and I know he's divisive. I just can't get down with some of his, conspiracy theories, and I know it shouldn't shape my thinking, but it does. And their owner, Woody Johnson. Sorry, bro. Not down with any of that conservatism, but go ahead.
Well, but I also, I don't think we have enough time to go down political party donations for owners.
Thank you.
But
don't talk about that.
Yeah, thank God we got to hit a break in a minute here. No, I think Brandon Aiyuk was a guy that I haven't done like a 180 on. I'm not the guy that's going to.
He's pretty introverted though, isn't he? So it's hard to know.
Well, but I like introverted players. Like a reason why I really enjoy someone like Justin Herbert is because he is a very introverted quarterback. He's not a rah-rah guy, and he kind of makes fun of the fact that he hates doing media. It's one of the reasons why I really like Klay Thompson early in his career because he was totally himself. When he got to the podium, he's very genuine. But he was also upfront about, dude, I don't like talking to reporters. I just don't.
Well, along those lines is why I put Steph Curry, to me, as the greatest athlete of all time. Right up there with sort of Muhammad Ali, and I can explain on the other side.
Now, that's a take.
Yeah, right?
That's a take. Also, there is something that our last caller, Austin, said about Brandon Aiyuk that I wholeheartedly agree with, that I want to dig into more as it relates to where he stands with the 49ers, and specifically where the 49ers stand with him, because there is something that I just want to drive home on the other side as we move into our final hour here on Saturday.